Welcome back to our Total Sense Bite-Size episodes. I'm Tom Henske, and I'm here to help parents teach their kids about money. Welcome back to Total Sense. Today, I have with us financial advisor Andy Starfield from Broad Street Financial in Philadelphia. He's a financial consultant. He's a certified financial business specialist, and he's a dad. Andy, welcome.
I am a dad, 2 and 5-year-old. So thank you for having me, Tom. Looking forward to being with you.
Well, I know we've talked offline about the conversation about teaching kids about money, and then you took a great spin on it and said to yourself, we tell our clients we're doing comprehensive financial planning. It's not as comprehensive if we don't start including the kids. So I always admired what you're doing at Broad Street because you're integrating the whole topic of financial literacy with your clients. So thanks for doing that. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. And thanks for, in all candor, being an inspiration and doing what you're doing on your side. So we're looking forward to doing it.
So let me hop right in. So what were you seeing from your clients that led you to see the importance of trying to talk to them about teaching their own kids about money?
It's a great question. I think a few things come to mind. First, I think it goes without saying, but I think it's important to note that most clients out there care deeply about their spouses and their children. But one unfortunate truth in this country is we're taught so little in our school systems about basic financial literacy. I think back to some of the classes I took in high school, whether it was dissecting a frog in biology or a firing up a Bunsen burner in chemistry class. And I understand why we're exposed to those things, but it's really unfortunate to think that most of us were never exposed to the financial basics like budgeting and managing debt and saving money. So it shouldn't be a surprise that we see clients who spend every penny of what they earn, who dig deep retirement holes. We run into people with little to no insurance who don't have wills. They're just not prepared. And not to be a downer here, but it's no surprise that so many relationships and marriages are torn apart by money. It's really a shame. So I was lucky to have, 2 parents who instilled some of those basics in me, whether it was living within your means or the power of saving money. And I don't want to put my family in a position like this, where, I certainly don't want my kids to have financial struggles as adults if I can do something about it. So for clients who we work with who didn't have the background I had or the education as a child, it's more difficult for them to change those bad habits as adults. So I think the takeaway is instilling these values at an early age so these fundamentals just become second nature. Not easy to do, but those are my thoughts.
It's funny. I was laughing when you were talking about some of the classes you took back in school, because I always tell people I'm still trying to figure out when I'm going to use parallelograms. When is that going to come into play with anything that I need to? I can't even pronounce it anymore, right? So look, when you're talking with clients and clients that maybe have kids that are a little bit older than yours, do you hear themes of, I don't want to call them complaints, but it kind of is complaining about their own kids and their, the whole my kid thinks that money grows on trees. Are you hearing that from some of your clients?
It's a really good question. It's something that is difficult to get our arms around. We see clients, that have the normal, I'm not sure how to instill these values. And I think, quite frankly, part of the issue is that just we're so busy as a society. I get to work and put my head down, and then the 2 and the 5-year-old are at home, and I can't even think straight. So I think there's that. There's the social media noise. I think that there's just so much to when I was thinking about this podcast today, and I'm thinking about how to get our kids better positioned in this area. And part of the challenge is, we find it hard enough to get the parents to get done what they need to get done. And then how do we get them to also take action to say, you don't have these habits yet. We need to improve your situation. And now we also need to try to instill these values in your kids. It's tough.
So I want to get your perspective on something. As a financial advisor, I've had this a couple of times where I'm sitting in front of a client in a meeting and we're talking about a specific part of their plan. And I start to think to myself, wow, isn't this something so basic that the client should already know about by now? Have you ever had that type of experience in a client meeting? And what's the topic that more often than not, it winds up being that you're, gosh, why don't they already know this?
Oh, only every time. No, I mean, I'm saying that tongue in cheek. You know, we see a lot of the normal stuff that you probably see, whether it's, pre-tax or Roth or term versus permanent life insurance. But those are things that make sense for the reasons, I kind of stated before about never being taught anything about this stuff, whether it was in elementary school or middle school or high school or college. But I think undoubtedly the thing our clients struggle the most with, and in a way it's quite literally the most basic financial concept, is having clarity around how much money is coming in, what goes out, and in turn, what's left over for them to save. So budgeting. And it's also the thing that requires the most amount of work on their part, which is what makes it the most challenging part of their plan. So it's kind of a unique dynamic between being really simple, yet difficult to master. And at the end of the day, having clarity and confidence around that budget can do wonders for alleviating financial stress and, creating financial independence.
So I was really impressed when Broad Street reached out to me, wanting to incorporate some aspect of financial literacy in the conversations with your clients. So what's your view of it? What's your vision? Where do you think it goes from here?
Well, I mean, I think part of it is having the 2-year-old and the 5-year-old that I have and saying, and I've told you this before, Tom, but, the 5-year-old just doesn't understand why he can't have a new Hot Wheels, every day of the week. And I'm trying to explain to him that I have to go to work and I have to earn money. And it goes back to the other things we talked about. But I think that there's such an opportunity as an industry and for our practice to up our game, to be different, and to, tell people that there is this kind of new wave of education out there. And I think you've done it in a really interesting way by not only doing it kind of the traditional with the book, but also with social media. And I think it's just a way of getting parents and their kids talking about something, that is really meaningful. And it seems kind of obvious, but it's also very different for the reasons we talked about.
It's interesting. When I was starting off my financial practice, financial planning practice, clients were asking me to come to their home to talk to their kids about money. And it was the whole 7-year-old, I'm trying to teach the difference between a nickel, a dime, and a quarter. And I realized that there wasn't enough hours in the day for me to do my job, and then to add that on. And so now I know the new trend is more kind of teaching them to fish as opposed to giving them a fish, meaning teaching the parents how to talk to their kids. What are your feelings on that as you're building your practice as a financial advisor? Because you probably fall into that same category I did, that, your time is stretched thin and you don't have the time to do the house calls with the 7-year-olds to do the nickel, dime, quarter gig.
Well, I think that's why your book is such a home run. I know this is not a commercial, but I really do believe that, and I think, as I said before, it's something that as a profession and as an industry that has gone overlooked. In our practice, we've done a lot of charity work centered around literacy in underprivileged neighborhoods. But embarrassingly, we haven't done a lot of that with our clients. We find ourselves doing multi-generational planning, but it's for the 50 to 60-year-old parents and their 20 to 30-year-old kids entering the workforce. And if we want to make an impact and have those kids be better positioned, we've got to do it at an earlier age. And I don't know how else to do it other than finding a means and a method, whether that's with a book like yours or social media, and having those conversations. So I don't think it's practical for the advisor to be the one actually doing the teaching, but being able to arm them with the tool to do it themselves. to me is a home run.
Okay, so tell me, what's the vision going forward? I know part of it. So how are you going to start down this road and helping your clients on this topic?
So our thought initially is to identify clients who we think would be open and receptive to doing this. I think that I don't know who wouldn't be receptive, whether it's a parent with kids who maybe are, 5 or 6 to 18 to college age. It could be grandparents. I'd love to teach my little one about it, but he's got other things he's got to learn first, so probably too young. But to host an event, send them something that's fun, that gets both the parent and the kid engaged. It's maybe a surprise. They get a box or they get a gift saying, we're hosting this really cool event. We've got a great speaker and a great topic. It's going to be great for your family. It's non-threatening. It's not salesy, and see how it goes. And I guess the way I think about it is that the very worst thing that's going to happen is that they're going to get an education and they're going to get a box that makes them feel loved and that they're going to get a lot out of.
Yeah, I don't think I'm
not the marketing guy, but that's my plan.
Yeah, I don't think any of your clients are going to get it and say, "Oh, I think that's a really bad idea to teach my kids about money." So I think you're pretty safe with that one. So
you're right. I mean, our clients are inundated with being pitched things, right? So to me, that's the home run of it, is that we're sending them something that is different. It's educational, and again, high impact.
So last thing I'm going to ask you, because I think a lot of our listeners would want to know this, because I want you to wear your financial advisor hat and your dad hat at the same time. So as a financial advisor, if you were only going to teach your kids one aspect of financial planning, what would it be?
That's a tough one. I think it'd have to be the power of saving and trying to do it in a way that's fun. So I remember having an allowance as a kid, but almost thinking about it negatively because it was something I didn't want to do. I wanted to spend that money. I wanted to buy baseball cards or whatever it was that I was doing. So I think if there's a way I can instill some of these values in my children, whether it's living within your means, or the value of saving a piece of every dollar you earn and doing it in a way that was also fun. That's probably the challenge. That'd be a home run. And I need to get the 2-year-old out of diapers first, but the 5-year-old is definitely probably close to being ready.
Andy Starfield, Broad Street Financial. You guys are blazing a trail on this topic. I'm really impressed. It takes a lot to impress me. I've been around for a while, but you guys are doing it. And thank you so much for being on the show today. It was really awesome to hear from you.
Thanks so much, Tom. I love the podcast. Really excited to have been with you. Look forward to catching up soon.
Okay, take care.
You too.
I hope you enjoyed our episode of Total Sense. A special thank you goes out to Verso Studios at the Westport Library. Tune in for our next Money Chat.